This is from another Paul, and I will keep it anonymous, apart from saying it's from someone called Paul.
Okay.
He says, I've been in a relationship with my female partner for nearly 7 years, and although I care for her immensely and we generally get on very well, I no longer love her. However, she frequently tells me she loves me. This has been the case for a few years now, and the pain teacher is very present in my life. My heart says to end the relationship, but my head says don't. I'm so worried that I'll cause her too much pain, as she's very sensitive to most things and this would really hurt her. Also, she has 2 children from a previous relationship, late teenage children, and I find it hard to love them fully too. I get on with them very well, but this will obviously affect them, not to mention the fact that my family love and care for them deeply. So I'd very much like you to share your thoughts on how I go about ending my relationship with her.
I understand the situation. I've coached many people in that situation. That's real common amongst people attending HLC too, for some reason. Look, I teach we all. You have to be honest with and love yourself first, because you can't give love to others that you don't have. If you authentically don't feel that sense of loving connection to her, then that's very important. But I would encourage you to look deeply inside of yourself as to what it is that's changed, because you're at that magic 7-year mark, which is called the 7-year itch, where most people start looking for another relationship, not realizing that in order to get to the depth of mature love, first we start in puppy love, then we go into romantic love, then we grow into mature love. And by 7 years, you're through the puppy and the romantic stage, but you're into mature love. And that's when the shine wears off, and now you're into the depths of a true spiritual relationship, where you're looking past their physical appearance, and you're looking past even your own need for instant gratification for someone to tell you how great you are, or whatever it is, feed you, into the partnership as the spiritual pathway. So many people get out of relationships, think they're being honest, but don't realize that they're projecting their own shadow into the relationships or their attachment wounds. So one of the things to do is get a hold of the course titled Healing Attachment Wounds, which is an audio book by Diane Poole Heller, or look at Dan Siegel's works on attachment wounds and adult attachment issues, which if you want to do a questionnaire in his book Brainstorm, which is really for raising teenagers, there's an adult attachment questionnaire in there that gives you ideas about what your childhood was like, and if you both did it, you'd probably find some interesting parallels. And then listening to Diane Poole Heller's program could be very helpful. Another audio program that's very helpful is one called Finding and Keeping Love by Harville Hendrix, which is all about how to have a healthy long-term relationship. You could also see a family and marriage counselor and see if you can get more to the issues that are creating this sense of separation, or look at what it is that's stopping you from feeling the flow of love. And because you're not sitting here with me, I can't ask you how long you felt like you loved her before that started to wane. But the real thing is, I'm pointing out, is if you really genuinely don't feel like you can connect to her with the depth of your love that is necessary to be a good partner and a father figure, then it's important to be honest with that, because every day you stay in a codependent relationship, regardless of what justifications you use, is a day you stop her from being free to find somebody that will love her and the children with their heart and fulfill the role of a partner, a spouse, and a father for the kids. And, life has its challenges, and really, my policy is always be honest about these things. And, if I was in your situation, what I would do is I would talk to her and I would share the truth of how you feel, let her know that it's not your intention to harm her, but that you love her enough to know that if you can't truly be there for her in love and in committed partnership and as a father figure for the kids, that you realize that you're stopping her from having the chance to find somebody who really is right for her in that role. Once we learn to love ourselves and we do the work which is perpetual in a relationship to deal with and engage our shadow and heal our attachment wounds, then each step of the way that we heal, we become more capable of loving at the level of we, or loving any other authentically. And only when we've reached a good success of loving we, in other words, we can have loving relationships with others without feeling like we're losing ourselves in them or overly burdened by them. We know how to have healthy boundaries. We know when our love is genuine versus when it's just sexually driven or driven by shadow factors or archetypal factors such as mommy and daddy imprints and things like that. Then we're ready to love at the all level. And in my system, anytime you're engaging more than two people, you and another, you're at the all level. So if a woman has a child, then you're at the all level, because anything that the two of you do or either of you do individually is emulated by that child, and therefore it affects society. As a teacher, all teachers are tasked at the level of the all, which is the highest level of spiritual responsibility, because if you mislead people for any reason, you magnify that by the number of people who listen to you and follow whatever it is that you're telling them to do. So this is an important time in your life, because if you don't practice loving yourself enough to love your partner and be honest with her, then potentially you're just acting out coping strategies or codependency strategies, which basically make the relationship go stale, and eventually the rot will emerge in any number of ways. And if there's kids involved, then you're actually teaching them that's what a relationship's about, and that's how you live one, which has a negative knock-on effect for everybody involved. So naturally, this is something I could talk about for extended periods of time, but I think I've covered the basics. I've given you some good resources, and I hope that you feel supported by what I've shared and that you can apply that. And you might also want to look into the work of integral psychologist Keith Witt, W-I-T-T. He's got a course through Sounds True, which I believe is called Loving Yourself Completely, which will help tremendously, because this starts with you. Remember, and anytime there's a relationship challenge or crisis, there's only 4 things you can really do. 1, work on yourself, which is the most important, because you can never see any more in the other than you can see in and through yourself. And our own shadows, fears, and biases limit what we can see in the other. So whenever we have a relationship challenge, taking the time to not be childlike and jump out of it, but jump deeper into yourself, to do the due diligence to heal and grow and get centered in yourself, so that you can actually see the person that is your partner as they really are, not as your shadow or ego projects its own biases onto them, is very, very critical. Because if you don't do that, you can end up losing your partner and later realize you were terribly in love with them when they fall in love with someone else. And I've seen that create quite a crisis for people. So the first thing in a relationship crisis is work on yourself. The second thing is work on the relationship, which means see the relationship as more important than your personal needs, but as something beautiful that you're both contributing to, and therefore find out where there's sacrifices that each of you is willing to make to give the other more of what they need to feel whole within themselves, so they have more to bring to the table in the relationship. The third option is do nothing and know that yesterday will always equal tomorrow. So you will basically freeze the relationship, which is really a misnomer, because what doesn't move in love stagnates putrefies, rots, and then becomes any number of pathologies. And option 4 is get out of the relationship. Some people try to do option 1 and 2 at the same time, but it's never wise because you can't really work more deeply on the relationship than you have worked on yourself, because you can't know any more about the relationship than you know about yourself, because you're 50% responsible for the experience. So if you're 10% not there and your partner's 10% not there for the kinds of things you're describing, then that creates a huge deficit, because if there's 10% of you that you can't share, that's 10% she can't access. If she's in the same situation, now we're up to 40%, and that's enough to really cripple a relationship. So those are my suggestions. I hope you find them helpful.